Hello and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. This is episode 22 and I'm your host, Brian Tally. Before we get started, I would like to wish my son, Colton, a very happy 15th birthday. I'm so proud of you and all of your remarkable life accomplishments. And I'm honored to have a front row seat to witness this beautiful life of yours. Every day, the advice that I pound into this young man is simple. In order to be the top 1%, you must do what the other 99% aren't doing. You have a choice, son. Work hard now and play for the rest of your life, or you can play now and work for the rest of your life. The choice is yours. Happy birthday, son. Have a great day. And now to the program. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of some of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. Be sure to like and share the program as well. You can also support the program by going to Anchor FM or Spotify and clicking the support button. Also, become a program sponsor today. Where are my business owners at? Get your gear, products, merchandise, or services out to the general public. Program sponsorships include a custom written script to advertise your business to its fullest potential to get the results you're looking for. To learn more, email me today at thetallybill@gmail.com. That's thetallybill@gmail.com. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. Today, we welcome Marine combat veteran Jarvie Curtis. Jarvie has been married for 12 years and has two beautiful children. Jarvie's life after the Marine Corps was difficult, and he struggled finding purpose after serving 3 combat tours in Iraq. Suicidal ideation plagued his life. He lived a life of anger and bitterness. In 2015, Jarvie learned that by creating a safe community of like-minded people, he could help be a catalyst for change. He credits Irreverent Warriors for saving his life and countless others. The backstory of this organization is very similar to that of our Corps. Jarvie has learned to adjust his mindset and take an approach to become what he and others want to be. The force that changes the veteran outlook. This is not an awareness organization, and they don't want people to talk about the 22 veterans that take their own life every day. They just want to stop it. With that, we are honored to be joined by Marine veteran Jarvie Curtis. How are you?
I'm doing well, Brian. How are you today?
I'm doing much better today. Had a little episode yesterday, I get them.
They come and go. We all face those from time to time. I'm glad you pulled out of that one, though.
They just, out of nowhere, gotta just keep getting 1% better every day, stay in the fight, and
That's
go
right.
win.
That's right. As long as you're doing better today than you did yesterday, it's still a win, right?
That's right. 1%. That's it. Get 1% better than what you were yesterday, and you will find yourself doing just fine. Now,
exactly.
Jarvie, I am honored to have you on the program today. I've heard lots of good things about you and what you're doing in the veteran community. And I'm also, aware now that we have some mutual friend in engagements there. Looks like that I may have went to high school with. Is it your cousins?
My cousins, yeah.
Oh, yep. Okay.
So that's kind of how you and I linked up. Was just kind of a happenstance on one of their posts, but I think it's a great opportunity for you and for our organization to kind of get our message out there to everybody.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to link up and share a little bit about your story and share what you're doing now in the veteran community to to add life value to those who may need it the most. So let's get started here, Jarvie. can you tell our listeners where you're from and a little bit about yourself?
So I'm 36 years old, grew up in Salt Lake City areas, Salt Lake City, Utah. I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. One sister younger, everybody else is older than me. And just kind of like the typical upbringing. I've, living here on the Wasatch Front, I really do enjoy the mountains. I love to hunt and fish and anything outdoors, kind of ingrained in the lifestyle out here for me. So from the time I was real little, I was chasing my dad up mountains, chasing deer and hiking through 3 feet of snow to find some elk. And it's been a great place to live. I really do like it.
Well, hunting season is upon us here.
It is. I actually have an archery tag in my pocket. So come Saturday morning, it's been open for a couple of weeks here. So come Saturday morning, I'll be headed up the mountain and see if I can't find something.
Elk?
Deer.
Oh, deer. Okay. Nice. Well, I hope you tag out this year and fill that freezer up.
Fingers crossed.
Jarvie, you've explained, growing up as a kid in Salt Lake, the mountains, the terrain, the hunting, the fishing. What inspired you to join the Marine Corps out of high school?
So I was that stereotypical kid that just kind of idolized the military. I really liked what they did. I really felt like that was something I could do. So fast forward to the attacks on 9/11. And I remember sitting in school and watching everything unfold. And like many of us in this OIF, OEF kind of era, that was a turning point for a lot of us. That was a point where we were like, okay, this isn't going to happen again. We're going to, we need people to stand up and make sure that these kind of attacks don't happen again. So although up till that point, it had been an idea, it was that day I kind of made the decision that, this is the route that I want my life to take. And so it was kind of comical. My parents have been divorced for a long time. And so in order for me to enlist at 17, I had to get both of them to sign off on the paperwork. And, I wasn't the greatest of children, high school kid with an attitude and thought I knew everything about the world. And so when I asked my mom to sign the papers, she said, yep, no problem. This is what you want to do, Jarv, go ahead and do it. So she signed off on it. And we went to talk to my dad. And I'm sitting in the living room with the recruiters and he says, so why do you want to do this? And I said, look, Dad, you've been trying to beat responsibility and, ownership. And you want me to be a decent person. And you've been trying to beat that into my head for the last 4 years. And I've been pushing back. Here's a group of men that will quite literally beat it into me. So if I'm going to be successful in life, this is kind of the route that I need to take. And it was that conversation. He signed off on it. So that was actually my junior year of high school. And shortly, I think it was maybe 20 days is all after I graduated that I shipped to MCRD San Diego.
I signed up at 17 too. And that's pretty wild. That's put it right back in your dad's face, huh?
Oh, well, it really, it amazes me now that I look back and I have nieces and nephews that are in that same age bracket. And I'm like, you're too young to make those decisions. What are you thinking? You can't do that kind of stuff. But then, if I were, I kind of look back at myself in those same years and I'm like, I knew everything. So he must know everything kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's a humbling experience.
I struggle with the same stuff too, especially having 4 kids, and 2 of them are, 23 and 20, and then I've got a middle schooler and a high schooler. So it's kind of like, they want to go out and do all these things. I'm like, oh my God, but they're adults. And I'm just this like guy who always just worries so much about my children and about their safety and their protection. And,
Absolutely.
Just that dad, I mean,
parents should.
I'm a dad.
Right.
And, but I totally, if my son comes to me today and says, Dad, I'm joining the Marine Corps, I'm like, no, we need to sit down and have a talk. Let's go. You know what I mean? It's like,
can we discuss college options first?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But, he had a more structured life growing up than I did. I needed the Marine Corps. I don't believe he does. And that's kind of like where we're at,
Sure.
with things. But he has a job he likes. He's, on a nice career path, as is my 23-year-old daughter, who's already graduated from college and is on to doing big and beautiful things. So, as long as we do our jobs as, fathers, their life will always turn out to be, positive and successful, because we are the mentors, with the family. We are the leaders of the family. So now, if you are okay, because, I'm all about transparency here, and I don't ever want to put anybody on the spot with anything. So if there's ever any questions that is asked, whatever, and you would rather not discuss it, we can pass it up and we can go to the next one. But after you joined the Marine Corps, you served 3 combat tours in Iraq. And, I'm just curious, for our listeners out there who have never been out there and have never really understood the life of a combat Marine, can you explain what your mission was out there and what your day-to-day operations look like?
So the vast majority of my time, my MOS was in the 06 category, communications. And really what I was doing was bringing critical communications into the country. Big, every email that you sent out, every phone call that you called home on came across the networks that I supported. So typically for my general job, it was a lot of FOB work, really, sitting on the FOB, making sure that, the battalion commander could call, the units out in the field, outside the wire, things like that. But it was really cool early on. I had the opportunity to do a lot of, I call them extracurricular missions. One, I was asked to take a spot and head to Baghdad. And we went over into Baghdad in 2005 for the very first Iraqi elections. And that was a pretty cool moment. I got to interface a lot with the local populations and dealing with polling stations and poll workers and things like that. I actually felt like I was doing a little bit more for the movement of the nation. And then, I had another stint for a little while with a MIT. I was outside of Camp Fallujah, another little encampment called EFIC, outside of the city of Fallujah. And that was another culture shock moment for me. Here I am, a young 19-year-old kid, thought that I knew the world, and I'm thrust into a foreign nation, and I'm one of 10 Americans with 700 Iraqis. And, they're all deemed the good guys, and we trusted them as such. We were training them to be the new Iraqi military. And it was a pretty big eye-opening experience to be really, I was taken away from what I knew as as an American military member and shoved into the day-to-day life of a foreign military. Mm-hmm. That was a pretty interesting moment.
So here you are 19 years old and you're thrown into Baghdad in their first real election,
right?
The fall of Saddam Hussein, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And you had so many people that you were in charge of, right? 710 people. What, as a 19-year-old kid being thrown into a war, now having the responsibility of the direction of this country with 700 people that you're responsible for, did you ever feel, that you were unsafe, or did you ever feel that any time one of those 700 would, essentially, try to kill you or harm you or kidnap you, or, what did the security situation?
The reality really set into me, being part of that 10-person American team. We had, everything from a sergeant major, he was running the show, down to, I was helping them with their comms. I would sit in the comm shed side by side with the Iraqi operators, and so we could kind of mirror the messages coming through. But it was interesting. It was actually it was a really horrible situation for me, to be honest. It was my first Christmas away. So it was Christmas 2005. And I had, been thrust overseas, and I got told my my platoon commander came to me and he was like, "Hey, I've got some bad news. You're leaving." So, well, where am I going? He says, "You're going to EFIC." I said, "Okay, when?" "This is Christmas Eve." He says, "You're leaving tonight." So the whole time, it's my first Christmas away from home. Here I am on the other side of the globe. And I kind of rested on the fact that I had a surrogate family to be with on Christmas. This was my other family. These are my brothers. And I was going to be with them for Christmas. And then to be told in the afternoon on Christmas Eve that I will not be spending Christmas with that family and I'm going somewhere else. Mm-hmm. That was hard for me. It really was. I walked into the tent. I remember we unloaded trucks, and I walked into our tent, and the team that was there, they all knew each other. They'd been with each other for a while. And they were in the far back of the tent watching a movie. And the other radio operator that was there pointed me to a cot, and he says, "Well, here's where you're sleeping." I said, "All right." He said, "You want to come watch a movie with us?" I said, "No, I don't think so." And I honestly just laid there and I cried myself to sleep. I was missing my family at home. I was missing my Marine family. I was stuck in a place where I was completely unfamiliar. Mm-hmm. So the next morning, I woke up for morning chow, and I walked over to our radio shed, and one of the Iraqi operators was there, and he had brought breakfast in for me. And it was a piece of naan, some cheese, a hard-boiled egg, and a piece of cake, and some chai. And he walked over to me with this breakfast and set it in front of me and told me, "Happy Christmas, sir." And so that's kind of born into a tradition. I found out shortly after I had left that team and went back to Camp Fallujah that he was killed in a firefight. And to carry on his legacy, since my children were young, Christmas morning, we have a hard-boiled egg, naan, and tea for breakfast.
And you say Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. It was the most.
That's awesome.
It was the most comfortable yet scary moment thus far in my life, where I walked into this tent and I see. Now, naturally, we have 10 Americans, but we have a rifle rack that runs down the whole length of the tent, and we've got 240s belted up. We've got 249s all belted up, and I'm like, "What?" I asked the gunny that was out there. I said, "What do we need all these for? Why is this is a full-on armory sitting in this tent? There's only 10 of us. There's 25 rifles here. What's going on?" And he just looked at me with a really crooked smile, and he says, "Have you looked outside yet? If at any moment they want to come and get us, we have to be ready." And I guess I was just naive up to that point, where I thought that they're always on our team. These guys chose to be on our team. They're going to be on our team. And it wasn't until later on that you hear of insider attacks and things like that, and that constant vigilance that you have to be on, even in your safe zone. You're in an area where you're supposed to be protected, but you can't let your guard down. And that really drove that point home to me is you really can't trust your surroundings anywhere. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those safe zones aren't very safe.
Not always. No.
Especially, when, they have and they're armed, they've got rifles, they're on your team, but, they're separatists and you don't know who they are. You can't really vet that well. And you're over there and all of a sudden, there's attack. There was a lot of them. I actually had a friend that was shot multiple times in one of those safe zone attacks.
Yeah.
In Afghanistan. And, I've heard that story, and it's insane. And he was a high level guy, and it just happened to happen. It just happened.
And,
you know,
we can't ever see it coming. It's one of those things where it just out of the blue, it happens. I mean, out there, if we had a class of snipers, they got Dragunovs, and they were outfitted, they were ready to go. They came in, completed their training. They were sent home on leave to go be with their families. And it was like something to the tune of like 15 trained, armed, and went home on leave. And I think only 8 or 9 came back. That meant that there were, coalition trained snipers with brand new rifles and rounds to just come back at us. So, it's really interesting to sit back and think about the methodology in the war effort and how we went about it.
One thing that stood out to me, and it still does right now, was that little life moment. You shared a memory with me, and it's so simple. It's really scraps for food, but it was the way that it was delivered in a sincere way that really seemed to matter to you. And obviously it's been a memory that has been with you, that you still carry on that tradition today. And just to remind our viewers out there, we have these life moments that happen every single day. And sometimes if you're blinded to see them, you'll never really capture those neat moments in time, like having a little breakfast delivered that 99% of Americans would look at and laugh at and throw it in the garbage without even taking a bite out of it. But here Jarvie was receiving this from an Iraqi who said, "Happy Christmas," and has now carried on this tradition. I think that's awesome. And I think that's a special memory. Again, it's not these memories that cost a lot of money sometimes to go on vacation and drop $10,000 and make these memories. Sometimes it's these memories in life that are so simple, that stick with us.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for sharing that, man. Now, we all know and understand so many Marines, when they get out of the Marine Corps, they have a hard time transitioning to the civilian life. The structure, the discipline, how things work, and how we as Marines say, this is nasty.
Yep.
You're nasty. You're nasty. You're unsat. Are you serious? I mean, and we're faced with this. All right, I got to transition, and this is really hard for me to do because I'm like this hard charger, and I'm mission oriented, and now I'm coming into a world where you don't really have that structure and that mission concept. Can you explain to me what your transition was like coming out of these 3 combat zones, and now all of a sudden finding yourself back in Utah as a veteran?
Talk about a complete, I talked about that culture shock and that whirlwind of being 19 and thrust into a different, a whole different world. It was the same thing, but in reverse, where everything that I had known was not true. Or so it seemed anyway, at the time. So I think it's interesting that, our government will spend millions upon millions of dollars to train us to be war fighters, to teach us the skill sets to fight the global foes. Yet we get 2 weeks of SEPs and TAPs to come back home. And even at that, I skipped out on the majority of it. I was that Marine. I had dropped my pack. I was over it.
You were on the bus.
I think I was behind the wheel. Like I went to my SEPs meetings and I just signed the attendance log and I left. Things like that. But it was interesting because I was excited to leave. I wanted my freedom. I wanted to not be told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, until that went away. And then when that went away, I was like, the structure, man, like now I have to make decisions, all these decisions for myself. And I almost felt like I was crippled in a way. But being a Marine, I'm going to find a way to figure it out. And so I transitioned back home. I hung out. I actually had I think 56 days of leave on the books when I got out, and I convinced the colonel to give it to me as terminal leave. So I had tons of time to draw a paycheck and sit around and do nothing, but I said, no, I'm not going to do that. So I jumped into the construction world, and it's fast paced, high energy. I was a rigger, hooking loads on cranes and building cranes, and I loved it. It was super high adrenaline. What other job can I climb up 250 feet and out 200 feet for a grease fitting? That's exhilarating. And so that was my new life. I was here, and I knew I had to make money. I had to have a job. But there was still that void. There's always that void. And I made the mistake when I left. Hindsight, I wish I never would have done it, but I changed my phone number. I deleted my social media accounts. I got a new email address, and I ghosted. I disappeared from that military family that I had. And at first it was nice because I was just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm done with it. I want nothing to do with it. I'm over it. And then what I found is, as the more I tried to distance from the Marine Corps, all I was doing was isolating myself. And in isolation, we find there's study after study after study of how isolating behaviors are a catalyst to suicidal ideology and suicidal tendencies. And so I started dating my wife, my now wife, and we thank God that she is a stubborn woman. She was not going to allow me to continue these behaviors that I had. I was angry. I had a pretty substantial alcohol dependency. I was getting in trouble with the law, assault charges, things like that.
Now, did you see yourself starting to go down this dangerous path because of the experiences that you had overseas, or was it because you were trying to adapt back to civilian life and you were just feeling maybe overwhelmed?
It was a mix of both, Brian, because how do we deal with the traumas if we don't accurate or appropriately, attack those?
Yeah. Call it what it is.
Yeah. And I remember I kind of chuckled at it, but in my SEPs and TAPS meetings, they said, there's this, it's a dog. What you've been through, what you've seen, what you've done is a dog, and it's barking behind you. At some point you need to turn and face that dog. And I never understood it until years later. And so when I couldn't appropriately deal with the traumas and the things left over from my military service because I didn't have anybody to talk to. And I was that Marine that wasn't going to go to this, I'm not going to sick call. I can handle this. I'm tough. I can do this on my own. I don't need you to help me.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until I got in trouble with the law. I ended up catching an assault charge. I got into a physical altercation with another gentleman, and it ended up running pretty high charges. I mean, I was looking at prison time for a fight. Things that we did in the Marine Corps all the time. You had a problem with somebody, we're going to take it to the trees. And at that point, I realized, like, Jarvie, you're doing something wrong with your life. I have my wife was pregnant at the time. We have this, this little boy on the way, and so you mentioned in your intro, I have two children. I have two living children. My first son, he was born very premature and passed away at only 8 days.
Oh no.
And this is the one she was pregnant with at that time. And so here I am, I'll call it squandering what I've been given. And I see this little soul fighting for everything that he had. This little boy that just struggled to exist on this planet. And here I am just throwing it all away. And that was a big turning point for me, is seeing that, there's more to just, there are struggles that other people fight that are far more substantial than what I'm fighting, and I need to get help with it. And so a mix between seeing him and his struggles and the way that he he fought a valiant battle for 8 days. And then also coupled with getting in trouble with the law, and they kind of forced me into some therapy. And it wasn't until I was forced into it that I realized it's pretty beneficial. It's something I could use. So I was into, group settings and one-on-one settings up at the VA for a little while, and decided it's time to start turning my life around. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, it happened right around, we had kind of a recession of sorts. The housing market busted here and jobs weren't plentiful. And at that point I had been a crane operator for a year or two. And so I had a CDL that I fell back on. Mm-hmm. I decided, you know what, Jarvie, we're going to go work for a recycling company. You got to pay the bills. We got to keep food on the table. You got a family to support. And it was when I was hauling around dumpsters that I realized that this is not the career path I want. And so I had a nice long discussion with my wife about it and said, what do you think about me using my GI Bill? Mm-hmm. Then in looking into it, I actually ended up going through VOCA rehab to get, my education benefits taken care of. And in 2016, I graduated with a bachelor's in engineering. And
congratulations.
Thank you. So, it was a hard struggle for the first little while. I had 6-7 years of just battling myself. But I feel like, when you have the right support network and the right support structure, you really can achieve anything. It's just finding that support structure that works for you. And I didn't have that. I actually opposed it. I had people that wanted to be there for me. I didn't realize what I had at the moment.
Mm-hmm. You were struggling, and you're fighting anxiety, you're fighting depression, you're fighting anger, you're fighting bitterness. You spent some time with your now passed son, and my sincerest condolences.
Thank you.
To you and your family. He fought for 8 days. When you looked into his eyes and you could see the fight that he had at 6, 7, 8 days, do you think that perhaps he may have saved your life?
Absolutely. Between him and his stubborn mother, those two individuals I absolutely credit them with my existence still here. They motivate me. They drive me. They push me. And, now I have my 2 children here with us today, and they too, they motivate the hell out of me to see, to see them grow and develop and just the little humans they turn into. It's amazing. And I want to be around for that. I want to make sure that I'm here to see every step of their life.
Absolutely. You want to have a front row seat.
Absolutely. Every single time.
To witness their lives. When they do good, when they do bad, when they're celebrated, and when they fall. In this thing called life, you're going to have it all. And what better way is to have a father that has some great experience to be able to speak some great truth and wisdom into his very own. So,
or at least hopefully some great truth and wisdom.
And hey, look, it doesn't matter what you think may be, good or true. To somebody else, it matters.
That's true.
Time,
that's very true.
And like, you said, I am a part of Irreverent Warriors, and we laugh things off. And that's a perfect example right there. You just said right now. Now, you are a veteran advocate these days. You finally, after everything that you were going through, you ended up finding this group of veterans and like-minded people that put on those little silky shorts and run around every city in America. Can you explain to our listeners what Irreverent Warriors is?
So the Irreverent Warriors organization was started in 2015, and it was really a tribute to a Marine that decided to take his own life. So our founder, Danny, he and some of his fellow Marines were they had a brother that decided to take his own life. And they said, you know what? Let's go out drinking in his honor, true Marine Corps fashion. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, he's, you know, he became one of the 22. Let's go out and celebrate his life. Let's carry a pack. We'll carry a pack with 22 pounds in it. Mm-hmm. The other one's like, dude, that's a great idea. Let's do this. And then the other one's like, ooh, let's do it in silkies. So here's these like 5 dudes walking through San Diego with a pack on in silkies, just bar to bar to bar to bar to bar. And, you know, in the realm of the time frame of social media, that started to spread. And people were like, dude, why didn't you invite me? So they're like, well, let's do it again in a couple of weeks. So they did it again, bar hopping. And the crowd grew and grew and grew. And as anybody knows, that when you put a bunch of Marines out there with no shirts, packs on, and silkies, combat boots, you're going to draw quite the spectacle.
Oh, man.
And then there were friends of his in other cities that were like, hey, can I do that too? And he said, sure, yeah. And then it hit him like, hey, this is gaining some traction. It's attracting, the veteran community, and it's a healing mechanism. Now, fast forward these 5-6 years, mm-hmm. and in our vision, our vision statement says to unite the veteran community and drive a healthy culture within its members. Mm-hmm. A healthy culture isn't going out and getting completely bent. It right. really isn't. Mm-hmm. So, to continue the mission statement, through creative engagements and events and strong veteran-based support networks, we are the catalyst for improving the veteran outlook. And in order for us to live by that mission, we had to start to adjust the way that we go about things. Mm-hmm. So no longer are our events bar crawls. They are hikes. We call them hikes, but it's basically a slow mosey. It's the slowest hump you've ever been on. Mm-hmm. And we wander around for, between 8 and 12 miles through different cities across the country. We have, I think last year's numbers were in the realm of about 60,000 veterans affected by our mission.
Now, was that 60,000 that participated in that year, or yeah?
Yeah, are participated in some fashion, because not all of them are hikes. Other cities, we have social nights, coffee meetups on the weekends, car washes. We partner, we do work with other VSOs or veteran service organizations in our own areas. The great thing about the organization is on the local area, mm-hmm. The local coordinators, as we call them, they kind of manage their own little area. It's their own little spot. And the local coordinators have a district coordinator that oversees a broader portion of the country. And then the district coordinators have national coordinators above them that handle, even bigger swaths. Texas, your state, is they have so many events. They have their own district. They have multiple district coordinators and their own national coordinator just for Texas. Texas is rocking it when it comes to our mission. But
mm-hmm. Well, it's a very patriotic state.
It absolutely state. Is. It really is.
Veterans from Texas, and it is an everyday thing here in Texas. I'll get, because I'm on a bunch of, email lists for veterans, and I'll get 6-7 veteran events every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's a breakfast, or if it's a dinner or a gala, or mm-hmm. just a lunch at Honor Cafe with, with Vietnam veterans or whatever it may
That's
be.
Outstanding.
I mean, it's just, it is so inspiring, and it's so uplifting, that folks really do care about the veteran community here, and the first responder community. I know the first responders go through a lot too.
They absolutely do.
Oftentimes they're overlooked with their mission, and their mission is just as important. So I'm glad that the military community is now starting to include first responders in a lot of these events, because they see horrifying things every single day, and they still keep us on that uniform, and they still fight for us despite low morale and everything else. So, I always want to give them a shout out.
And that's the thing is, is what I've realized over the last few years is, within our community, if we don't take care of one another, we've seen the failures of, some of the we'll call them government sanctioned. I don't want to name names, but we've seen the failures or the shortcomings on those fronts. And I don't like to get onto these platforms such as yours and just bash areas. I like to highlight what works. There's no reason for me to sit here and draw the negativity towards systems that are broken.
We already know.
Let's figure out what works and start pointing our communities towards those. Exactly. And these hikes are such an amazing thing where it doesn't matter. We don't care if you're a combat veteran, you're a peacetime veteran. We don't care when you served, where you served, how you served. You're part of the family. And we come out and I see people, Vietnam era vets that have canes and walkers, wheelchair bound vets that are with us, amputees. One of the biggest motivators that I've found at one of our hikes, he's a single amputee. His name's Earl Granville. Super motivational individual. In one of the pictures that I shared with you, there was a picture of me running with a cinder block over my head. And Earl brings this, he named her Cindy. He brings Cindy to every hike that he attends. And it's,
he named the block.
The cinder block's name is Cindy.
Love it.
So Cindy comes with a nice long chain attached to her. And as you hold Cindy, you wrap the chain around yourself, and it's a metaphorical weight, or it's a metaphorical example of the weight and the traumas that we carry. And so what he does is he starts the hike with it, and then when he gets tired, he passes it to somebody else. And 9 times out of 10, it's not him saying, "Hey, will you take this from me?" It's somebody coming up to him and saying, "Earl, let me unload that weight from you." And then they'll carry it for a little while, and somebody else will say, "Hey, let me get Cindy. Let me take that weight for you." And so it signifies what we have to do as this veteran family is we need to reach out to one another and ask to unload that weight on occasion. Sometimes life just gets heavy, and we need those people in our lives that can come by and notice. They can see it in your eyes and they can hear it in your voice, and they can say, "You know what, Brian, I can tell you're a little stressed today, man. What can I do to help you out? Where can I take some weight off your shoulders?" And sometimes it's a conversation. Sometimes it's just a hug. And I've seen more love and compassion shown for one another at these events than any other event that I've been to. I've gone with other VSOs, different big name VSOs that are out there to different events. And it didn't seem to be as much of an impact on my soul as the Irreverent Warriors events.
Cindy the block.
Cindy the cinder block.
That is genius, and the idea behind it to carry the weight and to move the weight. When we have weight on us as one, it's heavy, and sometimes it's hard to even stand up with that weight.
Correct.
But if you bring in 20 other people, that weight becomes almost like a feather.
It's shared.
You're all help. I like that. That is very unique, and we're putting it into Marine Corps terminology here. We're not PhD guys here.
No,
we can respond and relate to a block and a chain, and
Correct.
It makes sense. So when you talk to Marines, I love it.
It's such a motivational tool, and
I'm a fan.
And the man himself, his story is inspiring. If you have a chance to speak with him, he's such an optimistic individual.
Well, you tell the creator of Cindy the Cinder Block. I want him on the show.
I'll point him your direction. I'll get you guys in touch.
Yeah, I want him on the show. I want to talk to him. What's his name?
His name is Earl Granville.
Earl Granville. I'm Brian Talley, and I am inviting you on this podcast.
There we go. That? I'm gonna share this feed to him and get him in your.
I before we move on to some other questions here, I wanted to bring up something that really stood out to me. You said, we could sit here all day and we could talk about what's wrong with the government and all these failed policies and the bureaucrats and all that. I agree. Because I'm tired of it too. There's too much positiveness out there that we need to share on. And that's the
Right.
reason why I began this podcast. I don't show this very often, but this is something I need to remind myself of every single day. You want to know why? Because it was starting to destroy me, because I care so much about my country. I care so much about our veterans. I care so much about, my children and their futures and all that. But guess what? I can't change the world.
That's right.
But I can change the world through one person at a time. And again, that's the mission of this. Now, you said that's very hard to keep up with this and to keep your mind straight and to keep your mind right when all you're doing is throwing negative energy at all of these problems, when you can turn all of that negative energy into positive energy, into positive thoughts, and begin to get those good positive vibes around you. Because once you do, you start to see this life of gratitude, and you start to understand life through a different set of glasses, life through a different set of eyes. We really don't have it so bad. Yes, there is bad stuff. There's spiritual attacks going on. There's so much stuff going on, but there's still so much good out there. And that good is not shared enough. And that is why we have this program. We're about here. We're spreading positivity, and we are sharing the good things that Irreverent Warriors are doing. And we're sharing the good things that guys like Jarvie Curtis are doing, and how he has changed his life and now advocates for others to do the same through his traumatic experiences. So folks, you got to understand that if you want to take a step forward, if you want to start getting 1% better every day, you have got to ditch that negative energy. It wastes so much of your life. It strips you of your joy. It strips you of your peace, and it strips you of your happiness.
It's true.
That's all I got there. However, I do want to keep going on the Irreverent Warriors here. Do you have a moment that was very rewarding for you? Perhaps on a silky hike or something else that you have seen in the veteran advocacy world that really stood out to you and say, you know what, that is very rewarding, and I can go home and I can lay my head down on a pillow and be proud.
There are so many. I can count dozens of interactions that you're describing on any hike day. But the one that's most impactful to me, so I started with the organization as a local coordinator. I stood up the very first Irreverent Warriors hike in Salt Lake City, and have since moved up to a national position. But after, it's pretty stressful putting together an event like this where you're bringing 100 veterans in and you're going to go take over a city. There's permitting, insurance, there's coordination. We provide all food, water. It's a free event for veterans to come and show up. You show up, we're going to feed you, we're going to make sure you're hydrated, and you're going to have a hell of a time. But there's a lot of stressors that go into coordinating these events. And here I am, a green coordinator, never done one in my entire life. I had only attended one hike before that. So I'm still pretty new to the organization. And after it's all done, we have a meet and greet on Friday night. Our hikes are always on a Saturday, but the meet and greet is on Friday night. So veterans who don't know people there can come in. It's usually in a more relaxed environment at a restaurant or a bar, and just hang out and get to know people. Mm-hmm. Then come Saturday morning, you can you can walk and you'll know some people at that point. And then we have an after party afterward, typically, the same kind of setting as the meet and greet. So after the Salt Lake City hike, I had one of our hike attendees come over to me, and she pulled me aside and said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" It's like, mm-hmm. Oh boy, what went wrong on my hike? And she said, "I just want to tell you that your hike saved my life this weekend." This veteran flew from Philadelphia to Salt Lake City just for this event. Had never been to Salt Lake, had no idea what to expect, but she found herself in a dark place and said, I need to be around my IW family. I need to be around them. She told me. So I logged on the website. I looked at what the next hike was, and it was yours. I bought a ticket that day and I flew out. And how amazing it is to know that, we're all of us in the leadership arena for IW are all, we're all volunteers. It's not a paid position. And so my payment, and I tell everybody, my payment comes on hike day. When I see the smiles, when I see the camaraderie, I see the hugs, I hear people telling I love you, man. You matter. Here's my phone number. They're sharing contact information. They're linking up on social accounts. And it's seriously probably the biggest impact that I've, or the most impactful memory that I've had with the organization is when I just stand back and I observe. Mm-hmm. I don't have to be directly involved in those one-on-one conversations or anything like that. But when I stand back and I watch and I see these small groups of people and they're laughing and they're high-fiving and they're hugging and they're crying and they're sharing stories. We've built a mechanism to make healing easy, because we don't allow civilians in our hike element. They can come and volunteer, and none of these events happen without volunteers. So our volunteers are the foundation of the hike, but that's where our supporters end up. We only allow veterans, whether it's active duty, reserve, guard, doesn't matter. We only allow them in the hike element just because there are stories that are shared. There are things that are said that might be off-putting to people that don't understand. And those of us that want to share, you kind of feel a little bit of hesitance when there's somebody who hasn't exactly understood what you've been through listening. We all, I've always said that the best therapy I've had is sitting at a bar top with another Marine. Simple as that. I've been, professional help is great, but like-minded individuals, it's a lot easier to open up. It's a lot easier to share your story and to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so we've created that mechanism. It's a great way to get people to kind of let their guard down a little bit. You're surrounded, those that have social anxieties and things like that. Like, well, here you are. You're surrounded by your brothers and sisters. Nobody's going to let anything happen to you.
I love how you say, you know what? I put all the work in. I'm putting this in with my team, all the logistics, all the permits. We're making it happen. And when I get out there, I take a step back and I look back and see what my team and I created. And what my team and I have created is camaraderie. And people are hanging out in groups. They're talking, they're laughing, they're crying, they're having a great time. They're doing Marine store stuff. They're probably acting silly. And that's the whole mission of this. But you said this too. I put in all the work and it's so rewarding. Exactly. It's like you're a football coach, man.
Right. Yep.
You're putting in all the work. You're breaking down tape. And then game day is your hike. That's when you cash your check. You put in all the work pregame and you make sure it goes good. Everything is lined out. I know exactly how this is going to go. Structured. It's going to work. I know it's going to work because it says it's going to work. I have a blueprint here that says it's going to work.
We've seen it work.
Then we're going to show up there with our team on Saturday, and we're going to play a game. And that game is taking over cities on motivational walks, showing patriotism and camaraderie. And that's your paycheck. That is when you get your check cashed. And sometimes checks don't have to be in a monetary value. And
no, some of the best payments you get fill your heart.
Absolutely. And I think that's beautiful. I think this has been an outstanding interview, and I'm motivated. I am motivated. You
I,
have
I
motivated
want to
me.
see you out at some of our Texas hikes. I know there's something close to you.
And also you share the experience of this female veteran that came out from Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
She's going through some hard times.
Absolutely.
Okay. But what did she do? She took the first step. See, what people don't understand is that help isn't just going to come to your door knocking.
Right.
You have to realize it. And then you need to stand up and in some way or some fashion say, I need some help here. How am I going to get 1% better every single day? I'm not going to have some guy down the road save me. I'm not going to have my brother save me. My wife isn't going to save me. My kid's not going to save me. My pastor's not going to save me. The only person that can save you is you. But once you get up and you look at yourself in the mirror and identify and say, I need help, well, then guess what? Now everybody can help you.
That's right.
Because you put it out there.
You've opened yourself up to sing.
You've put the vulnerability out there to say, I need help. I need help. So now guess what? Everybody's wanting to help you. And that's when your life begins to slowly change. It doesn't change overnight. It takes a lot of little steps. Right. But taking that leap of faith, I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? Really? What's the worst thing that can happen? You just stay depressed. But
that's true.
Yeah. But ultimately, if you just take that first step, your life is going to change in ways that you could have never seen coming or ever imagined.
It's very true.
You got nothing to lose. It's only up from there. Because when you're in a low, you got nowhere to go down. It's only up. So listen, I want to give you the final words. We have a few minutes left here, Jarvie. Sure. You have been a phenomenal guest, and you have really created some good topics here of conversation that I think folks will take back to them and their family and their colleagues, or perhaps even share with some of their veterans, now active duty military, that they served with, so on and so forth, to share this word. Now, we've got 2 minutes left here. Do you have any final words for anybody out there?
I would just say, give it a shot. Mm-hmm. It might not be something that you think you'll enjoy, but I can promise you that I have yet to see an individual come to one of these events and not have a great time. It's free. It's free therapy. You're never going to get that anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Just go to our website, irreverentwarriors.com. Under the events tab, you can see all the cities that we're touching. And for those of you that aren't in the U.S., we're in Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, London, France, and Germany. So These events are going on. We're starting to branch around the globe. If you have any questions, you want to know more about the organization, you can find me on Facebook, and I can definitely point you in the right direction of different areas that you might want to be involved in. If you want more involvement in the organization, you want to help out the mission. Or if you just want to be a participant, we're just trying to, again, we're changing the veteran outlook. We already know that 22 a day is too many. We talk about it. We've been talking about it. We're done talking about it.
Yeah, it's time for action.
Our organization is out here. We're stopping veteran suicides.
Yeah. We need action.
We're preventing veteran suicides every single day that we do these events. So,
and I credit you guys for doing that, because there's so many veteran organizations out there that I don't really see them interacting with veterans. I see a lot of t-shirts, I see a lot of hats, I see a lot of bumper stickers, but I don't see a lot of interaction. Folks like you and organizations like you, and that's why you run my program, are actually out there backing up everything that you say. You're backing up all of your logistics, all of your pregame stuff, getting ready for that big game, getting ready for that kickoff and that hike. You guys are doing it all right. And for that is truly honorable. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you for joining us today, Jarvie.
Thanks for having me, Brian. It's been a great experience. I appreciate the dialogue.
We sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do for the state of Utah. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication to our great nation is truly honorable. Until next time, for Tuesdays with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi, and God bless.